All right, hello everybody, and welcome to week 5. I had a student request that song this week, High Hopes, and I don't know about you, but I got high hopes for getting this stuff done with. I got high hopes because I got my vaccine this week. I got high hopes because school seems to be moving forward, and I applaud you for any of the work that you've done to this point, and um, for your flexibility in your work with your own students and the ability to kind of move in and out of systems and different teaching models and all those things. So um, one of the things I'm challenged by all the time is this idea of kind of work and life and school and balance and how you guys manage that. So there's a little bit of work this week on that. Is just doing some self evaluation. Where is your work slash master's level stuff slash personal life balance, and how do you make that work to keep you healthy in this process throughout? So um, I always get a kick out of people say, "Oh, teachers, you only work 9 months out of the year," or you go home at night and you don't bring your work with you. I don't know how more clearly to state it, that teaching's a 12 months job and it's now a 12 to 14 hour a day job. So finding that balance is key. And so there'll be a little piece on that this week. Um, so we got 2 weeks left in this experience, which seems like we just started. Then you guys have one class left after that. So congratulations on kind of where we're at with this class, but also your journey throughout this St. Mary's process. I want to thank Britton this week for her ideas on 5 ways to take the distance out of distance learning. My big takeaway from that was twofold. One was on social emotional learning and kind of how we keep that as a priority, and secondly, just how do we take the adjustments from distance learning and put those into actually in-person learning, or vice versa, back and forth. How do we do that in this process and make sure that we're successful in our teaching? I look forward this week to Katie and Brooks' weekly technology spotlight. This will be our last two. I want to thank you again for your feedback on each other's work. I had a question this week about how those were graded, and I just want to make sure everybody understands. If you look at your grading sheet, each time you post a review on these weekly technology spotlights, you get a 3 point answer score kind of thing. So if we add all these together, there'll be 8 of them, nine of you total. You don't review your own, obviously. So 8 times 3 equals about 24. I think I had 20 points on each of these review and comments. So I appreciate the extra work on these because I realize there's a little bit more review and comment, but I think your feedback has been really good to each other. So for the last 2 weeks, let's talk about a focus. We're gonna work on finding any resources that we can use to really kind of finish up this process. So the website, the hyperdoc, just kind of general resources for you. But I want you to focus in on 3 groups. So first of all, parent communication. How do we improve that? Okay. Secondly, student resources. What are the resources we can provide to students? And a lot of those resources could be parent resources as well. And then also, what can we do with our technology to really make your job easier, more efficient? And I realize there's some front end work on that, but as we move into as we get this stuff set, the front end work is done, and then you can kind of use it over and over again. Make sure you're not doing too much fluffy stuff in this. Let's really be focused in on efficiency. Find tools that work for you and then perfect them. One of you in your Flipgrids this week talked a little bit about how there's something new all the time and you feel like you have to keep up on that. I'm a big proponent of honing in on a few things that you can do well and then do them well. And don't think you have to jump into the next thing. So a lot of the stuff we're doing in this class is somewhat introductory. It's like, hey, what do you think about this? And so that's a key piece. One of the things about the parent component that I want to just kind of highlight for you is I want you to think really closely about kind of how you can bring the parents in as almost like a co-teacher. I know that sounds a little, you know, out there, but I think getting parents in as a co-teacher is really great because they can give you the support that this child might need at home. but it also gives them a clear awareness of what's going on in your classroom. And this is a really key component to just getting you feeling good about what you're doing and making sure the parents know what's going on. You guys that are primary teachers, you most likely have a great communication set with your parent groups. Sometimes as the kids get older, that kind of fades away a bit. So I'll keep pushing that piece. Okay, so what are we doing this week? Week 5. Two things. One, you're only gonna get two things from me this week. You're gonna get a Google slide, which is probably what you're watching this video on right now, and then you're gonna get a game plan. And the game plan is actually gonna act as a hyperdoc. Now, it's not a perfect hyperdoc, but it kind of slowly takes you through some ideas around how these hyperdocs can work and how we can use them either as a turn-inable document for a student, but or also just a resource. So everything you're going to need is going to be built into the game plan, and you're actually going to turn the game plan back in with a lot of the work you do placed right into the game plan. So you'll turn in one document this week, and that's it. There's 4 or 5 things in the document that we're going to ask you to do, but for the most part, it's just turning in one thing. The only people that would have to turn in a different thing this week are Katie and Brooke because they're going to do their weekly technology spotlight by Wednesday. So as far as hyperdocs go, just want to make sure this is I've been throwing this at you for 3 or 4 weeks. It doesn't mean it's a 3 or 4 week project. It means I want you to think about it for a while, really wrap your head around how you can best use it, and then focus it in on one thing that you want to teach. Don't go bigger than that at this point. So this is a unit or a lesson that you can use to as a support structure. Now, there's lots of ways to do this. I mean, I've seen people do hyperdocs with websites. I've seen people do hyperdocs with Google Docs or Google Slides. Just know that at the primary level, I think sometimes Google Slides might work a little better, a little bit more imagery, a little easier to move things around. Very easy to do touchscreen work in front of your classroom. Very easy to kind of manipulate. Google Docs is great too. Sometimes maybe a little higher level as far as grade level goes. Can be delivered through Google Classroom, those kind of things. So you got to kind of fit what works best for you. So you're just going to turn in that one Google Doc this week. But like I said, there's a bunch of tools and stuff inside of it. So your websites so far, great. And I want to talk a little bit about the website rubric. I've had a few conversations with you this week, and they're great conversations. So at the end of the day, the goal is that the website works for you. Okay. Some people think the rubrics are vague. Some people think the rubrics are maybe a little too specific. So it just depends on who you talk to on that, and that's fine. They can be looked at as picky. I think a couple things to note. First of all, websites are really a professional document, and a lot of people are going to see them. So consistency in your website's key. Font consistency is really key. Okay, just the view of it, the look of it, the ease of access in it is important. So we want these to be professional. They can still show your personality. I've seen some good ones with some Dr. Seuss stuff and a few other things that really shows. I want you to encourage you to use the top menu selection buttons so that we're not piling a lot of stuff on certain pages. There's a little bit of research out there that says people don't like to scroll down all that much. So try to keep things tight. What you can see in the screen window, I think, is important. But again, make this yours, make it your something that can really work for you. And I know some of you are challenged a little bit because you're not allowed to have websites connected to your school district. That doesn't necessarily mean you can't have a website. It just might not be connected to the school district site, but you can still push it out as your class information place. And I don't think you'll get pushback on that. If you do, I apologize, but I think you can make this work. There is a little piece out there right now with websites and something called ADA compliant. This is a Disability Act piece, which some of you are very familiar with. It doesn't mean that you have to change anything, but just be aware of it. I don't think you'd ever be held accountable to this on a legal side, but there is some stuff out there. I manage the St. James District website now, and we are constantly talking about making sure all of our posts are ADA compliant. And there's just a couple tweak things that you have to do. But again, for what your work is, I think everything will be fine. I may reach out to a few of you to discuss permission settings. Please know that every time you post something that is linked to another document you've created, back to our first session about permission settings, just make sure they're set that anyone with the link can view. So if I email you this week and I just say, hey, can you double check this document because I can't see it? That's me putting on my parent in your classroom hat to say, I'm looking at your website from outside your system, just like a parent would, and this document isn't showing up. So it's not a huge issue. Once we get that permission setting switched, then we can do it. Because on your side, when you're looking at it, that doesn't ever show up because you're in your system. So we just want to make sure we have that set correctly. So yeah, you just kind of imagine me as a parent. So if you get an email from me about permission settings, don't panic. It's just simply let's make that tweak and we should be good. Let's see. Oh, I know. The daily schedules, things like that you might put into your website. Most of those are usually Google Docs. Sometimes you embed those. Sometimes they're a link. Sometimes you just hit Google Drive and it pulls it up. So those are all those documents, and you can create folders in which all of the docs in the folder are set with those same permission settings. Okay. So back to the HyperDoc real quick. I think we have a due date of February 21 on that. I want you to think about the tools we talk about this week and next week. So this week there's some stuff on infographics, a little bit on adding video that you create on your own. How does that work? Again, you're using this HyperDoc as a teaching tool for the parent, for the classroom, something that you could give to students and stand back on and let them kind of do their work. Also something you could put up on your smartboard or interactive display in your classroom. Have clickability in it so that it's all there for you and ready to go. Okay. And I think once you get into it a little bit, I've heard some really positive feedback from some of you kind of going, okay, is this going to work? And yeah, it's going to work, but you got to really, really focus in on, how it's going to work and what works best for you. And then the last piece on there is, I would encourage you when you're done with these, just to start linking them to your website. Okay, so they're there, and then you can access them next year or wherever, or you can refer back to them, use them as remedial work as well. All right, office hours this week are Wednesday, again, 7:30 to 9. I will put the Zoom link on the screen with the office hour page, just so that it's familiar to you each time. That probably got buried a few weeks back, so make sure we have that. I want to thank you for your Flipgrid work. Sometimes I think Flipgrid gets tedious and frustrating and challenging, but one of you commented on how important it is to see each other's faces, and I think that's a good lesson, and not only for adults and students, but just to see each other. So those of you that put in like the first Flipgrid this week, I encourage you to go back and just look at each other and hear each other's voices a little bit as well. Again, as we go through this, I want you to think of me as a parent in your system, and I do want to tell you this: that based on the work that you've done for me, if I had a student in your classroom, I would feel very fortunate. I would feel like I have a teacher who really gets it, who really feels like the student is the number one priority in their world, and I think you guys have really grasped that, and I'm really happy to kind of keep that process going. And then lastly, just as we wrap up this course and just kind of as we're making all these transitional changes, really, really work hard at finding that life school balance. Okay, so again, you'll see a little assignment on this and a little write-up on this during this week's work. Just find that time to break up, work on, creating your own schedules so that everything looks that you can really manage your time and give some time for you too. So I hope you're well. I hope you are continuing to move through your own learning model changes and the management of that is working for you. And I appreciate everything you've done to this point. I really appreciate the interactions. So again, if there's anything I can do to help you, please reach out. This is a process and we want to make sure that we work together on that process. So have a great week. And I look forward to your work in the HyperDoc that I'm providing to you this week, along with you learning some new tools along the way. Take care, everybody.